Welcome back to the channel. My name is Stephen Nguyen. I'm a pharmacist and I own 52 units of real estate. So I had a great question in the comments which I want to answer. And the question is about what is my overall equity to debt position? So I want to talk about the different phases and how my debt to equity positions have changed over time. So when I first got into real estate in 2017, I was obviously more leveraged, right? When you're trying to grow and you're trying to scale, that's when you're leveraging more. So I bought most of my real estate with 10% down in order to basically house hack the property. So, for example, if I bought an $800,000 home, which was my first home in the Bay Area, I put down 10%, which is 80K down, and I had roughly 720K of debt. And I basically repeated that 10% down process for my first four house hacks, spanning from 2017 all the way up into 2021. So, when you're scaling, you're obviously very leveraged. And I don't know what my debt to equity position was, but, in Bay Area, hindsight's 2020, but buying in 2017 was a great time. What people don't realize is at the time I bought my real estate, I bought it on market. I didn't know it was a great time. And I remember people were just telling me, oh, it's going to crash. It crashes every 10 years, right? So the last crash was in 2008. And I remember in 2017, people were saying, oh, it's going to crash in 2018. Oh, it's going to crash in 2019. Oh, it's going to crash in 2020, 2021, right? But the crash never really happened. Or maybe it's happening right now, right? So that's kind of was my mindset. I didn't think I was buying any killer deals. They're all on market. And I was just doing 10% down. I was fortunate that my interest rate was good. I only had an average, it was a 4% interest rate, which is amazing now, right? Where I just got a home for 6.5%. But I would say in general, as I was scaling, I was obviously more leveraged. But looking back in hindsight, I didn't really track my net worth as much back then. But my first home that I bought, pretty much appreciated by $8,000 a year since I've owned it in 2017, right? So it's so maybe my leverage wasn't as bad as I thought, but let's just say overall I was pretty leveraged when I was scaling real estate, right? And what happened was I built up a bunch of equity in my properties over time, right? So let's just say from 2017 all the way to 2021, roughly all my single family homes, let's just keep it simple, approximately appreciate about $500,000 each, right? So if you have four times $500,000, that's $2 million of equity that I built up. Then I did a cash out. So at that point, my debt to equity position was probably not that bad, but I did a cash out refinance, lowered my interest rates on all my four properties, and pulled out $1.2 million tax free as a loan. And I used that to go buy my 26 unit apartment complex, which I put 25% down. I used it to buy my 20 unit apartment complex, which I put 25% down. I used it to buy my mobile home park, which I put 10% down on. So I pulled out money, which is more leverage, to go buy more real estate, which is leverage, right? So, once again, I want to say when I was buying all my apartment complexes, I was probably, I don't know the exact number, but 25% equity, 75% debt, which is pretty leveraged, once again, right? And what happened was I started pumping money into these apartments, value add, right? So I was doing a lot of value add strategies, and at that point, I'm starting to force appreciation, right? So from 2021 all the way to 2024, I'm trying to double the value of all my apartment complexes, and I did, right? I doubled the value of my 26 unit apartment complex by doubling the rents. I improved the value of my 20 unit by I think like 60-70%. I didn't double it by raising the rents, right? So by forcing this appreciation, it helped me deleverage a little bit, right? And fast forward to today, and this is the drum roll, right? Roughly, I sit at 50% debt to equity, right? So right now, I own about $10 million worth of real estate, 5 million of which is debt. So I have 5 million equity. So I roughly sit at 50% debt to equity. And to be honest, this is kind of a more comfortable position for me, right? I was actually probably a little bit better in terms of my debt to equity ratio, but I bought my primary residence with 5% down because I'm a little bit cash poor right now. And, so because of that, but even despite that, my overall debt to equity position is 50%. And I think this is a comfortable number for me, right? So this makes sense for me in this stage of my life. Keep in mind, I am 34. I don't have kids. I don't have a family yet, right? But high level, what I want to explain is when you're scaling a real estate portfolio, you leverage, right? Your debt is going to be higher than your equity, right? Typically, you're going to be 25% equity, 75% debt. But once you've done your value add, once you're stabilizing, your debt to equity position should be around 50%, if not less, right? So, like, something that I've been thinking about, and it's kind of a side tangent that I've been pondering for a while, is like, is it worth it to further deleverage? So, like, what does that mean? Like, I could sell one of my single family homes that have like $600,000 of equity in it, and let's just say after I sell it and I pay my 20% capital gains tax, I'm left with, let's just keep it $500,000 for simplicity. I can take that $500,000 and pay off one apartment complex for sure. Let's say I pay off my 20-unit apartment complex because interest rate's like 6.5%, and then I can pay off half of my second apartment complex. At that point, I have no more debt, and it's going to cash flow a little bit better, right? Because I'm not paying, I think on my 20 unit, I'm paying $2,600 a month. So now I'm going to have $2,600 more of potential, more cash flow, right? And then I can use that excess cash flow to then pay off my 26 unit apartment complex, which I would have paid off half already, right? So these are things I'm thinking about. Like, do I want to deleverage, take some money off the table, and simplify my life a little bit and reduce my expenses, right? So the thing about leverage is it's easy to build wealth fast. So if I have 5 properties where they each appreciated by $100,000, I made $500,000. Versus if, let's just say, I sold half and own 2 free and clear, then if only I have 2 that are appreciating by $100,000, I'll only make $200,000, right? So that's the pros of leverage. But the cons of leverage is if you're too over leveraged, well, you might lose all your homes, right? Versus if you have 2 paid off homes, like, why lose 5 homes when I can just own 2 homes that I can never lose, right? So something I've been pondering, right? Like, is it worth it to sell a single family home, take that equity, and then pay off my apartment complex to have more cash flow, or take the equity and pay off my primary residence and not have to worry about a mortgage anymore, right? So, like, because that would definitely improve my quality of life. So something that I've been pondering and pausing as I've paused buying real estate, for at least for investment purposes recently. So interested to know your thoughts on, is it worth it to take some chips off the table, sell an asset to pay off my primary residence, or use that asset to pay off my apartment complex? And if so, which one should I pay off? Should I pay off my apartments, or should I pay off my primary residence, right? So I want you guys' input. Anyways, hopefully this answers your question about my debt to equity position. And to kind of add on to this, I want to talk about a little bit about my emergency reserve and my emergency fund. So for me, roughly, I spend on average, I want to say 40 to 50K a month if you have all my expenses, right? And this is being conservative, right? About 50,000. Let's just make it 50,000 bucks a month for simplicity. My emergency fund minimum is, and this is in cash, is at least 3 to 6 months. Ideally, I want to be at 6 months, which would be 600, which would be, what is that, $300,000. But right now, I'm trying to strive towards about 150K. So I always want 150K sitting in my bank at all times, just cash in a high yield saving account for a rainy day. So if a roof breaks and it costs me $30,000, I'm not sweating. If plumbing breaks and it costs me $30,000, I'm not sweating. What? So for me, about 3 to 6 months, right? On top of that, I'm very liquid. Real estate's not liquid at all, right? That's the knock on real estate. It's not liquid. It takes a long time to sell things. But I have about roughly $1 million in index funds, brokerage, 401k, life insurance, and that's a lot more liquid. So if needed, if I blow past my 150K cash reserve, I now have an additional $1 million which I could pull from, right? In emergency, I don't want to do that, right? So I have 150 in cash, ideally. I'm building that up. I have $1 million in liquid index funds, brokerage accounts, 401k, life insurance. I have a line of credit through SoFi, which is $100,000, and also I take a line of credit that I don't use right now, but I have it in case I need it on my stock portfolio through Charles Schwab. So these are the ways I have liquidity in case of an emergency, right? So for me, it's about 150K. And another question I got, which is tangentially related, is what I think about Dave Ramsey's method of owning real estate free and clear. And for me, there's nothing wrong with it. I can't do that. What people don't realize is Dave Ramsey, his main business is his media business, right? He sells coaching, he sells courses, has a personal brand, and he takes that money that he makes, which has high profit margins, and he uses that to buy real estate cash. And then once you own real estate cash, it starts to cash flow, and then you can use that cash flow to save to buy your next piece of property cash. It's doable, but you have to have a business that cash flows a lot, and you have to have patience, right? So for me, maybe when I get to that age, because he is older, I'll be doing the same thing, right? Because that's what I'm contemplating. Do I want to just pay off maybe my primary residence, not worry about the mortgage, pay off my apartment complex, is have that cash flow, and then from there, that's my financial foundation. I have very little mortgage. I have no mortgage, just property tax, insurance, HOA, utilities. I have 2 apartment complexes that are paid off and cash flowing, right? And I can make this happen, right? I can sell 2 single-family homes. One I can use equity to pay off my primary residence, and one I can use equity to pay off my 2 apartment complexes. And I can have that strong financial foundation, cash flow more, save up more money, and then pay off more properties, right? So there's nothing wrong with that. Like, it depends on your personal taste. But for me, right now, what makes sense is 50% debt to equity position. Don't get me wrong. Let's just say my YouTube blows up, my coaching blows up, and I make so much money, like Dave Ramsey. Then maybe I'll make so much that I just can start buying houses cash, right? And maybe I'll do that because it's easier to sleep at night when you have zero debt versus 50% debt, right? And it's easier to sleep at 50% debt versus 75% debt, right? So that's really the game and what's your personal comfort level. So once again, let me know if you have any comments or questions below. Hopefully you found value from this. Please like, comment, subscribe. If you want to learn how to buy real estate, multifamily real estate, check out the link down below. You should consider joining my mentorship program. I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you so much.